hear me? Hello?
Good evening. Welcome to the meeting of the Skokie Village Board for Monday, October 21st, 2024. This evening, we will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by our village clerk, Manal Desai.
Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The meeting will come to order, and a motion to permit remote participation by Trustee Pure Slovan this evening would be in order. Trustee Kuhn, seconded by Trustee Robinson. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutker? Aye. Trustee Robinson?
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn?
Aye.
Trustee Johnson?
Aye.
Trustee Purslovan?
Aye.
Trustee Klein? Mayor Van Dusen.
Here. Aye. The roll call, please do the roll call.
Trustee Sutker?
Here.
Trustee Robinson?
Here.
Trustee Kuhn?
Here.
Trustee Johnson?
Here.
Trustee Purslovan?
Here.
Trustee Klein? Mayor Van Dusen.
And I'm here. We have a quorum. Next item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda for this evening's meeting. Trustee Johnson, seconded by Trustee Klein. Is there anything on the consent agenda anybody would like to have removed? If not, call the roll, please.
Trustee Sutker? Aye. Trustee Robinson?
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn?
Aye.
Trustee Johnson?
Aye.
Trustee Purslovan?
Aye.
Trustee Klein?
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen.
Aye, the motion passes. This evening, we have a proclamation to be read. Trustee Klein will do the honors.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas the Village of Skokie is informed by the Rotary Club of Skokie Valley that October 24th, 2024 is World Polio Day, the international date for recognizing the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, which has been active for more than 36 years, and is pleased to report that the goal of ridding the world of this disease is closer than ever. And whereas Rotary International, which is the parent organization for the Rotary Club of Skokie Valley and a founding member of the initiative, reports that world polio cases have been reduced by 99.9% since the first Rotary International project to vaccinate children in the Philippines in 1979. And whereas Rotary members across the world have contributed more than 2.1 billion and countless volunteer hours to protect nearly 3 billion children in 122 countries from this paralyzing disease. And whereas Rotary's advocacy efforts have played a role in decisions by governments to contribute more than 10 billion in the effort. And whereas today polio remains an epidemic only in Afghanistan and Pakistan, but realizing how crucial it is to continue working to keep other countries polio-free. And whereas if all eradication efforts stop today, within 10 years, polio could paralyze as many as 200,000 children each year. And now, therefore, George Van Dusen, Mayor of the Village of Skokie, does hereby declare October 24th, 2024 as Polio Eradication Awareness Day. And the Village of Skokie encourages all residents to consider how fortunate we are to live polio-free and to support the total end of polio on this earth.
And is Lori Flanagan with us this evening?
Yes, I am.
Okay, if you would meet us at the
Thank you so much for this important proclamation. The Rotary Club of Skokie Valley has been integral in the part of raising funds for Polio Plus. This is something that has been occurring for 36 years, and we are very proud that we are this close to eradicating polio. So please help us to keep this in mind and to support Rotary and the eradication of polio. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That is great news. Congratulations and keep up the good work, and thank you for everything that you do. Next is a presentation by the Skokie 4th of July Parade Committee. Rich Ivanitz. As you know, every year we have a truly great parade, and it takes a lot of effort and work by a lot of people. And this is a chance, Rich, to show off a little bit and remind us before the onslaught of the winter weather what a great day it was.
Absolutely, and thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, trustees, and village officials. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of the parade committee. The committee is made up of volunteers from the community who give their time, their effort, their expertise to produce what is one of the world-class 4th of July parades here on the North Shore of Chicago. I want to just acknowledge my fellow committee members as we begin. Alan Gerstner, Arnie and Faye Oskin, Diana Ivanitz, yeah, that's my wife, Bob Quain, Atanu Das, Michelle Malari, Lisa Hanley, and Jim Hallam, who is our liaison from the Park District. So spanning over 2,700 feet, over 1,400 participants from 79 parade units, the 2024 Skokie 4th of July Parade brought a lot of joy to our community last July. We did overcome the sudden loss of several parade acts days before the parade, and several groups failed to show, but you would know it by the fun, excitement, and joy that the Skokie residents exhibited along the parade route. Now, the parade itself wouldn't be possible without the contributions of our community volunteers. Some of those faces I see even here with us tonight, and we thank them so much for their support of the parade, which, again, wouldn't be possible without their help. So we had a tremendous turnout for volunteers. Over 70 people from the community joined us to help put on the parade. And in addition, we had the Rotarians come out. The Rotary Club of Skokie Valley was our community spotlight organization this year, and they contributed just a huge number of volunteers. So the parade made a contribution to the Rotary Foundation for all their support. Now, if you're affiliated with a local nonprofit that would like to know more about the parade's community spotlight program, then I encourage you to go to our website and send us a message by email about your interest in participating in 2025. Some more volunteers. I think that's Paul Luke. I'm sure it is. Thanks, Paul. And lovely Model T wheel with the American flags. One of our great parade units, the Baseball and Softball League of Skokie. Love to have the kids come out for the parade. Now, who's this guy? Oh, Mr. Mayor, Mrs. Van Dusen, along with a little parade participant. Every year, we're so grateful to have the participation of Skokie's finest and bravest take part in the parade. So many thanks to the Skokie Police, Fire, and EMTs for coming out. We really appreciate your support. And this year's Grand Marshal was Dave Schwan. So Dave Schwan, or Schwani as he likes to be known, he's as delightful in person as he is on air. And we were overjoyed to have him participate in the parade this year. There he is. I'm going to conclude with just a couple final shots from the parade. And we also would like to thank Duran Shemtov He's the parade's official photographer and the owner of Duran Studio Photography on Oakton, for all these fantastic shots. That's my favorite, actually, this one right here with the two little ones. So in closing, and on behalf of the committee, I just wanted to say that we're deeply grateful for the support of the Village of Skokie on putting on this parade. The partnership with the village is vital to the success of our parade, and it's a great group that we count on every year to help orchestrate clearing and protecting the parade route while making sure everyone is safe and in good health during this great civic event. I thank you for the time tonight.
It does take a year's effort to negotiate the various contracts, and just the logistics, not just the day of the parade, but setting the different groups up so they can participate in Morton Grove, Niles, Skokie, Evanston, City of Chicago. For many of these groups, this is their yearly fundraiser, and they come from all over the Midwest, and negotiating those contracts takes a long time in some cases and a lot of coordination. So, Rich, please thank the committee for everything that you do. And the Park District, of course, is one of the key partners as well, as I think everybody is aware. I would like to introduce Police Chief Barnes. Chief Barnes. Chief Hoflick, I know, is here. Deputy Chief Eisner is here with us from the Fire Department. And this evening, we have 3 new firefighter hires, and the swearing in will be done by the Vice Chair of the Board of Fire and Police Commission, Helene Levine.
Good evening, Mayor Van Duzen, village trustees, Fire Chief Hoflick, and all who are here on this very special evening. I would like to especially acknowledge the family and friends of tonight's appointees. This is a proud moment for all of you. I extend my congratulations to you and thank you for supporting your loved ones during their journey leading to this moment. Tonight, we will swear in 3 newly appointed firefighters. We must never forget that the men and women who serve as first responders deserve our admiration. They are often the first on the scene of a tragedy and provide security and comfort to those suffering. We invest our first responders with authority to promote and keep the peace. They have earned our respect, our support, and our gratitude, and it is my honor to be part of this very special ceremony. I would first like to share a poem that says so much in a few words. It's called In Their Honor. To our compassionate first responders who selfishly serve us day after day, answering emergency calls and protecting us in situations along life's way. First responders strive to meet our many needs with courage and compassion, performing heroic deeds. Experiencing a vast number of emotions each day, to our Skokie first responders, we humbly say, thank you for the service you provide to our village in so many ways. Thank you. We would now like to start the swearing in, and I would like to call on Jacob Karkoska. Join me. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and please state your name.
I, Jacob Karkoska,
Do solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America,
do solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America,
the state of Illinois,
the state of Illinois,
the ordinances of the village of Skokie,
the ordinances of the village of Skokie,
and the rules and regulations of the fire department.
and the rules and regulations of the Fire Department,
and the Skokie Board of Fire and Police Commissioners,
and the Skokie Board of Fire and Police Commissioners,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of a firefighter to the best of my ability.
of a firefighter to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Sign and date this, please. And I will give you this, your certificate of appointment. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Jacob, would you introduce your family and friends who are here this evening?
Yes, so I got my mom and dad, my grandparents, and my 2 younger brothers and family friends.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
I would now like to call Jack Logan. Please state your name.
I, Jack Logan,
Do solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America,
do solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America,
the state of Illinois,
the state of Illinois,
the ordinances of the village of Skokie,
the ordinances of the village of Skokie,
and the rules and regulations of the fire department,
and the rules and regulations of the fire department,
and the Skokie Board of Fire and Police Commissioners,
and the Skokie Board of Fire and Police Commissioners,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of a firefighter to the best of my ability.
of a firefighter to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Sign and date. And this is your certificate of appointment. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And Jack, would you introduce your family and friends?
Absolutely. I have my dad, Greg, my mom, Mary Lynn, and my fiancee, Megan.
I would now like to call Ray Galson. I state your name, please.
I, Ray Gelson,
Do solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America,
do solemnly swear that I will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America,
the state of Illinois,
the state of Illinois,
the ordinances of the village of Skokie,
the ordinances of the village of Skokie,
and the rules and regulations of the fire department,
and the rules and regulations of the fire department,
and the Skokie Board of Fire and Police Commissioners,
and the Skokie Board of Fire and Police Commissioners,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of a firefighter to the best of my ability.
of a firefighter to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. And your certificate of appointment. Congratulations.
Ray, guess what I'm going to ask you to do?
I have my mother Anita here, and my girlfriend Leah, her family. I have my sisters, my best friend, my nieces and nephews, and my uncle.
Jacob, Jack, Ray, congratulations. You are joining one of the very finest fire departments in the United States. And we say that with a lot of hometown pride. But It's also recognized throughout the country by all of the accrediting organizations. Our police department, our fire department, our first responders, as Helene recited in her poem. I don't have a poem. But I can wax poetic when it comes to these departments. You do the very tough work. Those of us, when something happens of a crucial nature, we hightail it away, and you're the ones who go toward the event. And for that, we're grateful because you make us safe every day, every day, every day of the year. And we're grateful for everything and the sacrifices you and your families make. And I say this because I want your families to know what it is that you do and how grateful we are. Every 3 years, the village conducts a survey of all of our departments. And it's not done by us in-house, it's done outside by a professional evaluating organization that specializes in evaluating municipal departments. Every time we do this, every 3 years, our fire department and our police department always rank in the 90th percentile or so. And that's an expression of the community and our pride in your work. So thank you. We look forward to having you back for promotions and other activities in the village. And thank you for everything you do for the village. And Chief, Deputy Chief, thank you for everything you do. And I was remiss, I should have introduced Deputy Chief Oakley from our police department. Deputy Chief, thank you. And we have a little business to conduct still, but let's take a short break so we can all congratulate our new firefighters. So we'll reassemble in about 5 minutes or so. Ladies and gentlemen, the next item on our agenda this evening is a status report of the Village Seal Committee. Co-chair Maria Monastero Bueno with Jasmine Gurneau, the other co-chair, will do the honors. Maria?
Oh, actually, I wanted to say a
Oh,
few words
trustee
before we
Coe,
start. Sorry.
excuse me.
So in 2021, I was approached about changing the village seal because its imagery is harmful to Native Americans. This is not the first time the issue has been raised. I'm also a staunch believer that we cannot make this change without having the community that's most directly impacted at the table with us. So I spoke with the mayor, Trustee Robin and myself went to the Mitchell Museum of the American Indian. We asked for their input, and we heard their feedback. When I asked what was different this time around, the new director, Kim Viju, for the museum, shared with me that this is the first time in the museum's history that there's a Native American director, and this is the first time there is a majority Native board. That made a significant impact in terms of who told the story and what that story was. So what you see tonight is the outcome of a very thoughtful, deliberative process to be inclusive, to build trust, and to engage with the very community that our village seal was supposed to honor, but instead cause harm. It has been 2 years in the making, and I get that the process takes time, but I also want to acknowledge the Village Seal Committee, the work that you have done as volunteers. I know that you have dedicated and put a lot of time into this, from having to manage your own kids, full-time jobs, taking care of the elderly, all that comes in between life, but you volunteered your time out of a shared commitment to do right by the people that we claim that we're here to honor. So keep that in mind as I hand this presentation over to our co-chair, Maria.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Maria Monastero Bueno. I am chair of the Human Relations Commission, and for the last couple years, co-chair of our Village Seal Committee. Along with me, the other co-chair is Jasmine Gurneau, and Trustee Kem has co-chaired along with me. Some of our, the rest of our committee are Dick Wittry, Patrick from the village, Patrick Degnan, Marnie Smiley, and Mary Fedorowski from Overbite Studios. Let's see if we can. I did. Nope. Oh, there we go. This evening, we are going to give you all an update on the development of our new village seal. We'll start with the review and findings and recommendations of our review committee, the process and progress to date of the that we found, an update on the design, and then next steps.
Poso mawanoeak, yago jawale nyungiat, Jasmine Gurneau and Akaswisian, Onyota Aga, Niwangu Hanjot. Hello everyone, Mr. Mayor, members of the Board of Trustees, everyone here tonight. I'm Jasmine Gurneau. I'm a citizen of the Oneida Nation and a descendant of the Menominee Nation. I serve as Director of Native American and Indigenous Affairs at Northwestern University, and also a Muskogee resident. So joined the Village Seal Review Committee in 2022, and so that was when the Village of Skokie and the Human Relations Commission initiated a review of the current Village Seal, which you see pictured here, another rendition behind you. This has been used since the late 1940s. The review included national peer-reviewed literature and research, a listening session with members of the local Native American community in December of 2022, and then collaborations with Skokie Heritage Museum, the Historical Society, Public Library, and the Mitchell Museum of the American Indian, which is just over in Evanston. And the the results of the review were that the current seal is actually not an accurate representation of the tribes historically from the area, and is in conflict with how members of the Native community would like to be represented. And actually that peer-reviewed literature told us that depictions of Native people can actually reinforce harmful stereotypes and prejudice and discrimination. So the recommendations of the committee was to unanimously recommend that the village develop a new design that reflects the rich history and promising future of the village, that represents the history of Skokie's land, the Native community, the possibilities of Skokie's future, and the richness of Skokie's multicultural community.
So our committee was established in June of '23, which seems like 10 years ago, with myself, Trustee Kem, Jasmine, who you just heard, and I'd like to introduce Sheila Crumrine, who is one of, from our Human Relations Commission and a resident of the village. Tom DeMario, I'm not sure if Tom is here tonight. He is with the Appearance Commission and a resident of Skokie. Emily England is here. Emily is the manager of the Skokie Heritage Museum. Joe Hibden, is Joe with us tonight? No. Joe's in the Rincon Band of Luiseño Indians and a resident of the village. Richard Witry, president of the Skokie Historical Society and also resident. Patrick Dignan, who is our communications and engagement director for the village. Alex Franz, I think he's on staff, not here tonight. And then Amanda Sabri, who is also with the village.
Good evening, Mayor and trustees. I'm Patrick Degnan. I'm the village's communications and engagement director. So I just want to quickly go over the process to date. The committee began its work in June of 2023. We conducted a survey and did some community engagement. In July of last year, we began the artist solicitation process. I'll speak a little bit more about that in a moment. We also, following that, conducted artist interviews, research, and then finally, the fun part, not sure if everyone would agree with that, but design and concept development and refinement. That's the meat of what we've been working on over the last summer. And then tonight, we're here to provide a design update, and then next steps would be seeking community input on the design presented tonight. So going back to the survey, the committee asked questions to gather some insights from residents about potential elements and themes that they might want to incorporate into a new seal design. So the questions we asked were, what do you value about Skokie? What visuals, symbols, or concepts represent Skokie's past, present, or future? What landmarks or natural features represent Skokie? And then finally, what vision do you have for Skokie's future? The committee was at the Skokie Farmers Market, Wednesdays on the Green concert, sharing the survey and just sharing some information about the project. Some members of the committee also participated in a student broadcast through Fairview School that was shared with the school. Future CNN reporters, I think. We also shared the survey through online and print communications channels. It went in the new Skokie print newsletter that went out to all Skokie households. And what we heard is that people really love Skokie. No surprise there. Not everybody had the same reason why they love Skokie or love living here, but there was a lot of overlap in the responses. So you can see there's a word cloud that just shares some of the most common words people used in their responses. But generally, people valued the village's diversity. That was a major theme. Its location and convenience, community and services. In terms of visuals, symbols, and concepts, people referred to its native history, its recreation and green spaces, community gatherings, and the spirit of inclusivity within the village. Landmarks and natural features that people pointed out include the building we're in, Village Hall, as well as park facilities and the library. And then for the vision for the future of Skokie, people envisioned a sustainable, diverse, growing, family-friendly, peaceful, community-focused, and unique village. So after getting that feedback from the public, we issued a request for qualifications for artists and firms who are interested in working on the project. The committee conducted outreach to universities, to design firms, arts organizations, presented to the Chicago American Indian Community Collaborative, the Mitchell Museum, and members of the public. Received 9 submissions and reviewed all those submissions very thoroughly, interviewed 3 finalists, and then ultimately selected Mary Fedorowski from Overbite Studio and Marnie Smiley from Bumper Lanes to work on the project, and you'll be hearing from both of them shortly. Before I turn it over to Marnie, I just wanted to quickly talk about what is a village seal and what is a village logo, because those 2 things can be the same thing or they can be 2 separate things. Typically, when you look at what other cities, counties, villages use a seal for, it's for authoritative and ceremonial uses, so things like proclamations, village code, policies, legislation and legal documents, plaques, awards, recognitions, stamping passports, permits, licenses, and certificates. And then when you look at logos, you can see the village's logo that we've been using since 2022. Typically, that serves as more of the primary identifier that people see in public. It identifies village programs and services, so you'll see that typically on flyers and brochures and promotional materials, applications for village services. It can be used on letterhead to show village property, and also on staff IDs. So there's no rule of what has to be used for what, but generally that's how we typically see the 2 graphics used. So we'll turn it over to Marnie next. That was your forward button.
Hello, everyone. I am Marnie Smiley. I had the opportunity to help the Village of Skokie kind of define what was going to be important to them. Here's a little bit more about me. I'm also a member of the Otoe Missouri Tribe, which is based in Oklahoma right now. Before that, we were located in the Missouri River Valley before we were moved from our homeland. So very involved in the Native American community, but also have a consulting and rebranding firm as well. So kind of get to be in both worlds and kind of spread the love in that way. So let's learn a little bit more about what we're doing here. So we had the survey, and so the survey was kind of the first bite into what was important to everyone in this village. And so we used that survey to understand what are some of the first steps that we should take moving forward. The survey was incredibly important in order for us to lay our foundation on where we start here. Now, just because you have a survey doesn't mean it makes it any easier. There's still 100 different ways that this project could go. And so Bumper Lanes got to come in and kind of focus on some of that energy. So some of the things we focused on where we looked at the artistic styles, we looked at what colors would resonate a little more. Some of this you could kind of detract or retract from what the survey said, but not everything here. So these are just some of the ideas that we really wanted to make sure we incorporated. These are some of the examples that we used. You can see that we have a pretty big concept, and when we were first trying to narrow down what was going to make the most sense, we used images like this just to focus what was going to make the most sense from the beginning. Go one more here. There was a lot of color choices, but some of the colors that really made the most sense were some of these light colors that were preferred over the dark colors. And this is really the juxt of where a lot of the information came from, the survey that we did with the committee. As you can see, we considered a lot of items from the beginning. We looked at the trains, we looked at the water features, we looked at pine trees, we looked at maps, we looked at arrowheads. We looked at a lot of items, and that's what we want to walk away here. If we considered, every rock, every pine tree, everything in the city that could have been a representation, and you're going to see where we ended up here. I will give you a little bit of a treat here that the item that did make it all the way to the very end was introduced from moment one. And so from moment one, it just kept kind of being a steady eddy and then slowly just started rising to the top here. But you can just see that marsh grasses were definitely on the top, and fire in some version. You can see we had fire stained glass and fire regular were some of the other items that were really important here. So on the history side, I'm going to introduce our good buddy Dick here, and he's going to take it from here. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the Board of Trustees, village staff. On behalf of the Skokie Seal Committee, Richard J. Wittry, 7835 Now Center Road. Before I lead you through a few of the slides that have been presented, I have a few remarks, if I may, Mr. Mayor. When this issue arose, Mr. Lockerbie contacted me and asked if I would consider serving on the Seal Committee. I assumed he requested my participation as I am president of the Skokie Historical Society and pretend to know something of Skokie's history. Initially, I was of the opinion that the image behind you, right there, was a dignified representation of a Native American. It certainly was not a caricature of the manner of Chief Wahoo. At the start, I was somewhat skeptical of the efforts to replace the chief. Later on, however, I attended a listening session at Oakland College, along with members of the committee, and listened to several presentations by Native Americans. One concept that was highlighted was that the Native American culture does not necessarily celebrate the individual, certainly there are some exceptions, but generally celebrate the collective, the tribe. As time progressed, my research revealed that the tribes along the Great Lakes most often wore feathers hanging in a downward fashion. The chief, of course, is wearing a headdress, which is most often associated with the Plains tribes and not the Great Lakes tribes. Historically, the chief is an inaccurate depiction of the Native American culture which resided in the Skokie Valley. Therefore, the creation and adoption of a new seal was and is in order. I will let our other speakers discuss the elements of the design, but I wish to address one very important facet of that design. The seal's focal point is a flame. This was not pulled out of the ether and made the centerpiece for no reason at all. The flame has at least a 46-year history of representing Skokie's spirit, which began in July 1978, shortly after Frank Collin and his ilk abandoned Skokie in favor of Marquette Park, Chicago. Skokie's spirit is symbolic of the successful efforts by Jewish, Gentile, and other faiths in turning away the Nazi scourge. That flame grew from this experience. Later on, village employee and artist in residence, Joe Felice, I think Joe is with us tonight. Joe? Joe Felice commemorated that spirit by creating the lovely stained glass masterpiece over the front entryway of Village Hall. The village's new seal, if adopted by you, the Board of Trustees, has a lineage which supports its adoption. Now I'd like to go through the slides, if I may. I've already spoken to that. You'll note that the Skokie Spirit button that we are sporting, Maria has one, Jasmine has one, I have one. Emily, I'll return this to the museum, I assure you. You'll note that Mayor Smith is with Jack Matzer, former village manager, and rock and roll legend Dick Clark is wearing a Skokie Spirit. This dates from July 1978, okay. Shortly after the Nazis ended their attempt to march in the village of Skokie. Also, Jack Matzer is wearing it on the next slide. You can see that Skokie Spirit really kind of took off. We now have t-shirts with Skokie Spirit on it, and the blood drive and Skokie Spirit all in one. Skokie Spirit is something that permeates this village. It really came out during the 1976, 77, 78 Nazi marches, etc., as the people of this town coalesce with one another. But it certainly reflects other attributes that each of you enjoy. All you Skokians enjoy the spirit. You care about this town. You give blood. You participate in elections. That's Skokie Spirit. Okay, some more, let's see. Okay, there we go. Joe's masterpiece in Village Hall. That was installed, I think it was 1980, Joe, about when that was installed by the village. And it's truly gave rise to what we are presenting to you tonight. The flame that we have chosen, that our lovely artists here have created for you, comes from that. And that lineage, again, is 46 years. Mayor Smith, Joe, and our former village manager, Bob Epley, and the Skokie Review. This is Joe's daughter. Is she in with us today? About 40 years ago, maybe? And Joe, of course, with the construction of the installation. Sue Schwartz, the late Sue Schwartz, the spouse of Harvey. The power of the village lies in its people. Skokie spirit represents a force from human beings giving life, power, and energy. That's you, ladies and gentlemen. That's all of us here. Skokie spirit is important to us, and we want to embrace it, and we want to show it in the seal that we are endorsing this evening. And in 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic, again, Skokie spirit rose again. This is not an old concept. It's not a 46-year-old concept that shows up every once in a while. It permeates the village from 1978, when it first showed up, to today. And I'm going to turn this over to Potawatomi. Marn, you want to speak to the Council of Three Fires?
Yes, no problem. So in this area that we call Skokie now, it has there were other people here before all of these lovely folks are here. And these are the Potawatomi, who are known as the Keepers of the Fire. They come from the Council of Three Fires. This is Ojibwe, some folks know them as the Chippewa, the Odawa, or the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi. It's also in the order of little brother, middle brother, big brother. Did I get that right? Jasmine? Jasmine, I think, knows this a little better. They are supposed to be presented in a certain order, because that's like how they all came together. So the Keepers of the Fire was definitely something that's been very common in this area, especially in the Native community. And just some of the other symbolism, this isn't necessarily Native oriented, but that the flames are internal. Fire is a metaphor for passion and spirit and desire. And my personal favorite is, of course, the Harry Potter Phoenix. So not that it has anything to do with here, but just that you can always bring up beautiful things out of a fire. So I'm going to pass this on to our next person, which is going to be our lovely Miss Mary, who's done a lot of work here.
Good evening, Mayor and trustees and community and friends and family. My name is Mary Fedorowski. I'm the artist who designed this concept that you're going to be seeing in a moment. I am the owner of Overbite Studios since 2018 and proud Skokie resident as of July 2021. We are happy to be here. I am thrilled to participate in this project and very thankful for this opportunity. And I want to thank just for a moment the whole committee and also my partner in crime, Patrick. Thank you so much for dealing with our antics here and getting past the finish line. Drum roll is here. This is the updated concept for the Skokie seal. Now, after going through many community surveys and getting the committee's feedback and their direction, we went through over 20 unique concepts that the committee considered over a number of months. These iterations were based on community surveys, again, in the committee feedback and direction. And this seal design brings together a multitude of inspirations, which I'll go through in a moment. But mostly, and most importantly to me, and including the multicultural and diversity of our community here in Skokie. Okay. There we go. Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Again, Patrick coming to save the day again. So there's a number of design elements that I want to kind of go through very quickly. Mainly is thank you, Mr. Felice, for your wonderful inspiration for this design. The Skokie Spirit Flame was essential to this design in my mind because it brought into the representation of the Potawatomi and the other tribes we mentioned earlier from Marnie over here, and was really inspired by the historical uses of the Skokie Spirit and the flame that we see at the City Hall just at this door. The broadleaf cattails to the side are indigenous, and they symbolize the indigenous flora and fauna in the area here. The font that was chosen is Futura, which is very accessible. Anyone with a screen reader can be able to read them. That was incredibly important to anyone in the community who would need to have that assistance. The year 1888 is the year that the Village of Skokie, formerly Niles Center, was incorporated. And mainly the color palette draws inspiration, particularly in the flame, of all the natural plants and native plants to this area. Every color is actually from a native flowering plant that is available around Skokie. This style was again inspired by Joe Felice's wonderful art piece, and Wab Skokie below is the Patamanu word for swamp, which was Skokie, which is the land that we incorporate today.
Okay, so next steps. We are planning to launch a community survey beginning tomorrow, though you can scan the QR code and take it right now, especially if you like it. It's available through November 4th, and the purpose of the survey is to gauge public awareness of the process to date, to see if the village, people have busy lives, so maybe not everybody's aware of this process. We want to find that out. We want to identify where more information or education might be needed. We want to also provide the public with an opportunity to review the design and to provide their input, to ask questions. And then finally, we want the public to help us plan future public engagement, give us some ideas for how to roll the seal out and ultimately celebrate the final design. So after we get that survey feedback from the community, we will be discussing it as a committee, and then at a date to be determined, we'll be coming back to the village board with a final seal design to present to you and be codified. And with that, I will turn it back to Maria and Jasmine for any questions.
Trustee Robinson.
You guys. First, I just want to thank the commission, the leadership, the partnership, the collaboration, the process. I wrote it down. What a wonderful homage to these lands. Very thoughtful, love the concept, and the history. Everything just tied in so well together. It just makes sense. To me, that is the spirit of the work. That's the spirit of these lands, and I just appreciate the hard work that you did for it, and well done. It's great.
Trustee Sutton.
Well, I'm going to echo what everybody else is saying, but this is a proud moment for all of us. I've been looking forward to this for a long time in the making, and the way that you presented it, bringing in the right people to the right committee, and the artwork is just beautiful, and I think it symbolizes everything all together. So thank you so much for making this happen.
I echo my colleagues. I do also want to recognize Joe. Would you stand up? I'd like everybody. Joe was one of the creative forces within the village for many years. I won't tell you how long, because that means I reveal my age as well. But Joe, thank you for being the inspiration for this. Joe also, by the way, is a sculptor and did a lot of the work on the North Shore Sculpture Park, that wonderful area on the east side of town along McCormick. And I think the proposed seal is in keeping with that spirit that we've always had. And I look forward to your listening sessions. When do you estimate you might bring this back to the board for final action?
Yeah, I think it will partially depend on what we hear from the trustees, the board, and also the public. So if we're in good shape, then whenever everybody's schedules allow and when there's time to put it back on the agenda.
And does it, I'm assuming, would that require a village ordinance?
We have to look at that. We think it most likely does because it's an official seal. It's the differentiation that was made at the beginning between a logo and a seal. And it certainly would put us in better stead, is our opinion, to do it by ordinance.
Okay. Good.
Okay. Can I ask, when this comes back to us in ordinance form, will it include an update to the flag, which features the former problematic seal at the center?
The intent is for the first step to be the seal, and then the flag will follow. And so very likely, when the board sees this again, it will not include the flag at that time.
Are there any other questions from the community that we can address?
Yes, sir. Please take the microphone.
Just an honor. I'm here from Phoenix, Arizona. Robinson is a close friend. So with this healing of what has been done to indigenous people is a powerful thing to see. I hope you all did some video, some kind of documentary, because the entire United States is going to have to go through this process of healing with what happened to First Nation Native peoples. And so I just think this is a beautiful process to witness, considering the Ashkenazi, white Ashkenazi Jewish population and what they survived here, and how that directly connects to Nazis studying what happened to Native people here and trying to recreate that in Nazi Germany. So this is a beautiful thing to witness. Please, please document it so that other communities can learn.
Thank you. Thank you. Look forward to your return visit. Thank you. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is report of our village manager, John Lockerbie.
Thank you, Mayor Van Duzen and Village Board. Good evening, everyone. Item A is regarding the residential and commercial water meter replacement program with a contract to Water Resources Incorporated from Elgin for an amount of $4.4 million. And our Public Works Director, Max Slankard, is going to be providing a presentation of this proposed project.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the board. I'm accompanied this evening by Jeremy Lyerly, who a few of you may know, or perhaps not. I think this is his first village board meeting, so go easy on him. Although if you ask me hard questions, I'm going to make him answer. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. I'll try and make this brief. As described in the manager's report and in the attached staff report, AMI stands for Advanced Meter Infrastructure. So basically what we are doing is we're going to be installing radio read water meters in our system. So as you might imagine, what a radio read water meter does, it provides continuous two-way communication from the water meter to the utility. The utility is us. We'll be installing those meters. We'll be installing 10 locations in the community to receive those radio signals. And what that allows us to do is to automatically read water meters, and we can read those water meters anytime we choose to do that. Why is that important? Well, a couple things. For one, the technology that we've been using to read water meters, which is about a third of our system, is still manually read. The technology is not going to be supported anymore, so we need to make the change. But there are a number of benefits that will accrue to us by going to an automated system. Conservation. This will allow us to create a customer portal via Neptune's 360 app so that residents can monitor their water usage anytime they want, 24/7, 365. In addition to a resident being able to monitor their water system and their water consumption, we can monitor it. So residents can go on the app, they can see if they're in town, if they're out of town, is their water running? And that may not sound, to those of you who haven't experienced it, that may not sound like such a big deal, but take it from me, who used to live in the city of Chicago, and I was in Mexico with a toilet running, and you get the next water bill 3 months later, and you see the giant spike in your utilization of water, or you come home and you hear your toilet running, it becomes a big deal. So a resident who has this system can receive alerts You can set alerts that your water is running. The system will also generate for us alerts that water is running. And so there's a host of benefits from us having the system automated, not the least of which is no longer will we be in the field going around reading water meters. We can read water meters remotely anytime we want. So those are the principal benefits for us to be making this move. The company that we'll be utilizing is Water Resource. They are our Neptune meter provider. We have a lot of confidence in their ability to do this. This will be a turnkey approach, so they'll be providing the meters. Their people will be doing the installations. They will have a call center set up to handle the scheduling. They will also be doing the mailings, making the contact to do the installations. So truly sort of a soup to nuts approach to getting this done. So this is really bringing us to the current state of the art, if you will, for water meter reading technology.
So the action before the board this evening is to approve the contract with Water Resources Incorporated for the amount of $4.4 million and $656, I should say.
A motion is in order. Trustee Sucker, seconded by Trustee Kuhn. Comments or questions? Trustee Kuhn.
Can you speak to the level of precision that we'll be able to know in terms of any leaks in the water? Is it based on the house location, different parts of the house? Like, what level of precision will we have?
Yeah, so a good indicator of leakage is during nighttime, when typically people don't use water. If you see the meter continuously running during that time, that's an indication that there's some leakage going on. So, like Max said, we can, if the customer elects not to utilize the Neptune 360 app, we will have that ability, and we will notify them to look into their toilets or what have you to look for a leak.
So you're looking at consumption as a whole for the property, but within that, if, in terms of variations, whether it's the upstairs, downstairs toilet, you won't be able to tell the difference?
Usually it's the toilet, because if a pipe's leaking, you're gonna see water. The toilet hides it because the tank leaches water into the bowl, which goes down the drain, so you don't see that.
Okay.
That's 99% of where leaks occur, where customers experience a high bill.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? It's only $4 million. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Sudker? Aye. Trustee Robinson?
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn?
Aye.
Trustee Johnson?
Aye.
Trustee Pure-Slovan?
Aye.
Trustee Klein? Aye. Mayor Van Dusen?
Aye, the motion passes.
Items B and C were included as part of the consent agenda and approved thereof, and so that completes my report.
Thank you. The salt purchase might be the most important purchase we make in the next few weeks.
For sure.
Next item on the agenda is report of our Corporation Counsel. Michael Lorch.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. Good evening, everyone. Items A and B were ordinances that were on the consent agenda at the beginning of tonight's meeting and were adopted at that time. Item C is an ordinance that will amend the previous, the provisions affecting the salary of the village clerk outlined in Village Ordinance Number 24-9-F-4715, which was adopted on September 16th of 2024. And the provisions there set the salary for all of the elected officials at that time and included that of the village manager. The village clerk. At the October 8th, 2024 Village Board meeting, a motion to amend in part the previously adopted ordinance, the same number, 24-9-F-4715, concerning the compensation of the village clerk was offered and passed. Consequently, this ordinance will set the compensation for the village clerk commencing on May 1, 2025, in the amount of $89,610 annually for the fiscal year 2026. And the compensation for the village clerk shall increase for fiscal years 2027, 2028, and 2029 in the amount of the Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, but in no case more than 3% in any single year. Mayor, I'd ask for board action on this ordinance.
A motion on the ordinance as proposed is in order. Trustee Kuhn, seconded by Trustee Robbins. Are there any comments or questions? Trustee Kuhn?
Yeah, so the reason why I asked that we have this on the agenda, and thank you for including that, is when we looked at the salary for compensation for the mayor and for the trustees, these are part-time positions. Most of us are either retired or financially independent or not relying on this as our sole source of income. For the clerk's position, it is different in that it is a full-time position. And so I wanted to make sure that we are able to reflect that adequately. And so thank you for putting this on the table.
Trustee Johnson.
Thank you. Respectfully, I want to argue that we not approve this race tonight. I really think that we, as a board, unanimously made the right decision in September when we unanimously decided to not increase the compensations of any elected positions for the coming term. And so before we vote on this, I want to just give a few reasons why I think increasing just the clerk's salary would be ill-advised for the board's consideration. First, as has been talked about before, all of Skokie's elected officials already receive above average compensations for their respective positions. The clerk already has the highest compensation of any elected official in Skokie. A really helpful comparative table was given to us before the meeting that shows that for elected clerks, we're already at the highest for comparative communities for elected. Second, despite what was said at our last meeting, I don't think the clerk position should be treated like other full-time village positions. This is an elected position. It's a public service position. It is not like board-appointed or village manager-appointed administrative positions. I don't think we should be kind of conflating elected and appointed positions in order to justify the raise. And yeah, I mean, and lastly, I think we should be really sensitive to the appearance of political conflicts of interest here. This is, to be very direct, most members of the board are actively supporting a clerk candidate for office or receiving political support from a clerk candidate for office. I don't think this is a really opportune time for the board to vote on raising the clerk's salary in the coming term. So I just want to really strongly encourage the board to just reaffirm our September decision and just keep all elected compensations flat in the coming term. Thank you.
Well, I'm not aware that when prices go up for things, if you're an elected official, you get a special dispensation and you're not affected by inflation. If you're a full-time employee of the village, you're a full-time employee of the village. And if you compare our clerk with other clerks of comparable municipalities, Arlington Heights, Elk Grove, Mount Prospect, Downers Grove, those salaries, in addition to Elk Grove, Evanston, Glenview, Highland Park, et cetera, averages $91,358. Our clerk is below that. And this is our only chance to do that. So I recommend that the board, out of consideration of our clerk as being full-time and like everybody else having family expenses, certainly is deserving.
Mayor, if I might also add, not speaking in favor or not in favor, but for clarification, the piece of graph that was given to all of you tonight which the mayor has already reviewed, I point out to you that this is based on current salary amounts. Most municipalities, like ours, because of the way the state statute is written, are going through the same process right now. And by example, it is our understanding that in Evanston, they just completed that process, and the clerk's position was increased by a significant amount of money. A significant amount of money. So we just have to bear in mind when we're trying to make comparisons, trustee, that we really, whether you want to get into a discussion of appointed, elected, if that makes a difference, as opposed to someone who's full-time or not, I just want to point out that these numbers do not reflect what's really happening all over the state right now, because the statute requires now is the time to review salaries, and that's it for the next 4 years.
Sure. Okay.
Trustee Sutka.
I just want to reiterate what Trustee Robinson said last time, which is this is not about the person, this is about the position. And with that, it's about the job. So the job, whether you're appointed or elected, you're doing the job. So to me, that doesn't differentiate anything. Thank you.
Trustee Robinson.
She almost took the words out of my mouth.
Trustee.
There we
Coon.
go.
Again, I have to fact check, so I'm going to say the clerk is the highest paid elected official in Skokie because it's also the only part-time position in Skokie. Full-time position. It is not the highest for electeds comparable in our area. As you mentioned, Mayor, the range is pretty wide, anywhere from 68,000 to 112,000, depending on whether it's elected or appointed. We're also in a unique position where we have salary compression happening right now, where the deputy clerk is getting paid more than the actual the elected clerk itself. And so it speaks to the maturity of the office, the workload that we do. And I want to make sure that whoever is elected in this position, because the only time that we can make this decision is before election time, because we are not favoring one particular candidate or another, but this is a decision that is going to affect whoever is going to be elected into office. So I want that to be clear.
And this is the process mandated by state law.
I just, I had said this a few meetings ago. I mean, my personal preference is that we don't increase any compensations, but I really think it's kind of misguided to just kind of pick one and try to argue why a specific, this position deserves a raise more than others. I think if the board wants to increase compensations, just increase all of them by 3%. I think to kind of try to make this argument for just the clerk, I don't think is really helpful. And this is my personal opinion, I think the distinction between appointed and elected officials is important. Mayor, the communities you all mentioned, these are appointed clerks, they're board appointed, they serve the board. In Skokie, the clerk is a direct representative of the public. It is more directly a public service position. There shouldn't be an economic incentive to pursue it. So that's my opinion.
I would also like to add, I'm sorry, Mayor, but I'm part of a small but growing group of new Americans that have been elected to office throughout the country. There are not a lot of us. And the reason why is part of it is the compensation structure that supports retired or financially independent people. What I'm looking for is the opportunity to make sure that the clerk position is going to be appealing to someone who is in the mid-professional level, that is attractive to them, so that we do get younger people in that position as well.
Thank you. Trustee Robinson.
So I think everybody else spoke pretty much what I'm going to say. I'll just leave it there. Thank you.
Mayor?
Oh, sorry, Alice.
That's okay.
I'll learn one of these days.
No, it's okay. Thank you. So, I do support that we should, reevaluate, the position and the increase. And it has nothing to do with whether you're elected or appointed, because it is a position that is full-time, and I do agree with, my colleagues when we talk about that we want it to be young people, we want to make it so that it is, a position that people would look for, in their careers. I would ask though, please, of our attorney, Mr. Lord, if you would please reiterate what it is, because it was hard to hear, and unfortunately, the agenda is not coming up on my computer. I'm having a hard time here. So if you can reiterate to us so that I can understand. I don't believe you said it would be the 3% COLA, is that correct?
So we wanted to follow what the village generally begins with in assessing employee compensation each year when the board reviews compensation. Remember, we can't wait and do it each year. The state statute requires now is the time, and so the most consistent we could determine, and what was proposed at the last meeting, is that it be an increase each year based on the consumer price index for all urban consumers. And that is the beginning of how the village assesses increases for the rest of staff. The other things that go into that consideration we can't do now, and so we are saying consumer price index for all urban consumers is the establishment, but it cannot be more than 3%. And hopefully.
So right now, what is the percent? Is it like 1.5%? Approximately, do we know? Because COLA would be 3%, correct?
It's a rolling 12 months, and I think the most recent was just under 3%.
Okay, that makes a difference to me, so thank you very much.
The difference really in terms of the general employees of the village adds one other component. It isn't a necessarily dramatic number. I'm looking down at our budget folks, but it is a factor. And so we just tied to the consumer price index, specifically the index for urban consumers. It should track pretty close.
Trustee Robinson.
Thank you, Mayor. I will say it. Because I've heard it a couple of times, I don't want this to be like a young opportunity for a young person. Let me say that. I would like the position to be respected as a career path, whatever that looks like. It could be for anybody. So I just wanted to add that for the record.
Thank you.
I'll just make a final comment. Respectfully, I appreciate what's been said. I do want to disagree. I don't think we should think of the clerk position as a quote-unquote career position. I think we should think of it more as a community representative position, a public service position. That's my opinion.
Is there anybody who wishes to comment? If not, call the roll, please.
Trustee Sudker? Aye. Trustee Robinson?
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn?
Aye.
Trustee Johnson?
Nay.
Trustee Persloven?
Aye.
Trustee Klein?
I believe all full-time employees should be treated the same, so I vote aye.
Mayor Van Dusen?
Aye, the motion passes.
That would conclude my report for this evening.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda are 4 Plan
Sorry.
Commission items.
I got something under unfinished business.
Okay.
I just want to provide an update and some comments about the proposal to legalize and regulate backyard chickens in Skokie. I had asked that this proposal be reviewed by the board sometime in November, and I'm looking forward to that. Just an update. In the past month, our Sustainability Commission voted to recommend that the village board legalize backyard chickens in Skokie. And then on the flip side, our Board of Health voted to recommend that the village board not legalize backyard chickens in Skokie. And neither of these recommendations was unanimous. It was divided in both cases. And if you combine them, it was basically 10 commissioners voted for the proposal, 9 voted against it. It was real split. So I think I'm looking forward to our discussion.
It'll be on the agenda next meeting.
Oh, wonderful. I do want to advocate for something. Regardless of what specific decision the board makes, I want to really advocate that we make progress on our sustainability plan goal about revising our zoning ordinances to remove barriers to urban agriculture. So personally, I would love to see backyard chickens, but if the board is not inclined to support that, then I really ask the trustees come to the table in November with some alternative proposals concerning local food in Skokie. Our sustainability plan features, mentions other options about removing barriers like for beekeeping, for rooftop food production, for front yard gardens, for edible landscaping. There are many things mentioned. So the chicken conversation.
We'll take this up next time.
I'm just going to finish my comment. So I think I just want to advocate that we think of this in terms of the broader initiatives concerning local food and that we make some progress at our next meeting, regardless of what the decision is about chickens. Thank you.
Chairman Pollock.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. Tonight I bring 4 cases to you, actually 3 cases. Case 2024-28P is a parking determination which does not need board approval. First case tonight is case 2024-25P, a subdivision, and all these cases are related. Next case is case 2024-25P, site plan approval, and case 2024-27P, a special use permit. I'm sorry, there are 4 cases. And case 2024-29P, a special use permit also. In the subdivision case, at the September 19th meeting of the Plan Commission, we reviewed request of Chicago Title Land Trust Company as successor trustee under trust agreement dated July 16th, 1962, and known as trust number 17677 on behalf of Linder Tui LLC to subdivide 6 lots into 4 lots in a B4 regional mixed-use shopping zoning district. Before I continue, this address may ring a bell to some of you because the same petitioner came before you 2 years ago with a residential plan. And because of financial situation, they did not move forward with that plan, and so they scuttled it. And they came before us in September with this new proposal. And again, I'm going to refer to this group from here on then as the petitioner. In the subdivision, Lot 1 will contain a proposed Chase Bank. Lot 2 will contain Kava Limited Service Restaurant and its associated drive-through, and First Watch Limited Service Restaurant. In Lot 3 will contain the existing multi-tenant industrial building at 5404, 5418 Tui Avenue. Lot 4 will contain the vacant lot industrial building at 7235 Linder. No interested parties spoke regarding this case. Moving forward, the case 2024-26P, site plan approval. The petitioner requested site plan approval for a 4-lot plan development at 5404 and 5418 Tui Avenue, also 5440 Tui Avenue, and 7235 Linder Avenue in the B4 Regional Mixed-Use Shopping Zoning District that includes 2 industrial buildings, a limited service restaurant, a limited service restaurant with a drive-through, a bank with a drive-through facility, shared surface parking, and stormwater detention in a B4 Regional Mixed-Use Shopping District. The proposal involves retaining the existing multi-tenant industrial building at 5404 and 5418 Tui and demolishing the vacant industrial building at 5440 Toohey Avenue. 2 new commercial buildings facing Toohey Avenue will be constructed. The eastern building will contain 2 limited service restaurants, one of which is requesting a special use permit for a mobile order-only drive-through lane along the west side of, in companion case 2024-27P. The western building will contain a bank with 2 ATM drive-in lanes located on the north side in case 2024-29P. The vacant industrial building at 7235 Linder Avenue will remain at the site for the time being, and the petitioner will request to amend the site plan at a later date once a use for the building or its replacement has been determined. Subsequent to the petitioner's filing of the case, planning staff determined that relief is not required to allow parking in the required 25-foot minimum front yard along Illinois State Route frontage, as parking is permitted in a required front yard in the B4 Regional Shopping District per Chapter 118-217D1 of the Village Code. One commissioner asked what the impact of future revitalization of the redevelopment of the building at 7235 Linder Avenue would have effect upon the traffic. The petitioner stated that although the future use of the building is unknown at this time, sufficient excess capacity will be provided at the signalized intersection. Another commissioner asked why there was a difference between the development area and total site area in the stormwater management calculations. The project engineer stated that the only area being reviewed at this time was a new construction that is going to take place. The petitioner will submit additional stormwater analysis at a later time depending on further development of the site. Appearance Commission issued a certification of appropriateness for the proposed building and elevations at their August 14th meeting. In case 2024-27P, the special use, Kava, the restaurant is requesting a drive-through. Kava is a Mediterranean fast casual restaurant chain with locations across the United States. Kava will occupy a 2,511 square foot rental tenant space on the west side of Building B. It will include a drive-through lane on the west side. The proposed drive-through will function for picking up mobile orders only. In other words, these orders will be sent in and to be picked up. There's no on-site ordering. The average queuing for the 2 vehicles at the time, with an average service time of 2 minutes. Staff supports the analysis of the drive-through proposal. In case 2024-29P, special request for the Chase Bank that intends to move from its existing location within the first floor of the office building at 5552 Avenue to a new 3,384 square foot facility. The current location does not offer a drive-through ATM facility. The new location will have 2 outdoor ATM lanes on the north side of the building, and each ATM will be able to accommodate stacking for 4 vehicles. The ATM lanes will be accessible from a one-way southbound driveway off the 2-way east-west driveway running south of 7235 Linden. One commissioner asked if the new bank would have safety deposit boxes. A representative from the Chase Bank explained that their company is moving away from offering that feature, and the proposed facility will not offer safety deposit boxes. No interested parties spoke regarding these cases. The vote was unanimous across all 4 cases of 6 ayes and 3 members absent.
Mr. Friedman, do you have any?
Petition was here tonight if you wish to, have any questions.
Do you have any comments?
Other than, good evening, Steve Elrod on behalf of the petitioner. Scott Gidwitz is here Only comment is to say we have accepted all the conditions that the Plan Commission has imposed, as well as the staff has recommended.
And I'd like to remind you that all 4 cases have to be voted on separately.
Right. Okay, first one is Plan Commission Case 2024-25P, subdivision for property in support of Chase Bank, Copper Restaurant, and First Watch Restaurant, 5404-5418 Toohey Avenue, 5440 Toohey Avenue, and 7235 Linder Avenue. A motion is in order. Trustee Klein, seconded by Trustee Sucker. Are there any comments or questions on the subdivision? Okay, are you going to discuss the subdivision? That's what we're taking up.
I have a question, and I'm not sure if it's this one or the one about.
I think it would probably be either the site plan or one of the special uses.
It's about asking what's going to happen to the Chase Bank locations that are currently on Dempster. Like, what are they going to do with those buildings? Is that relevant?
I have no idea. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Sudker? Aye. Trustee Robinson?
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn?
Aye.
Trustee Johnson?
Aye.
Trustee Persloven?
Aye.
Trustee Klein?
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen?
Aye, the motion passes. The next is the Plan Commission Case 2024-26P. Site plan approval, Chase Bank and Copper Restaurant, 5404 to 5418 Toohey Avenue, 5440 Toohey Avenue, and 7235 Linder Avenue. A motion is in order. Trustee Klein, seconded by Trustee Kuhn. Are there any comments or questions on the site plan approval? Lauren?
Yes. How can we justify building additional Chase Banks when we already have some on Dempster, and what are Chase planning to do with those buildings? Are they just going to be vacant buildings when they move?
I can speak to this a little bit. So the banking industry has changed through the decades, and so at one point, there was a value placed on having a bank building on the corners, and it was kind of a sign, a way to remind the community of the banking institution, and they were very involved in the Chamber of Commerce's and in the community. The banking industry today has kind of evolved to the point of they have consolidated, and so there used to be multiple branches of X bank in town, and then they've consolidated to maybe 1 or 2 in town, or maybe, you know, in communities adjacent to us. But there's a different style of banking today. So some of the bank buildings are owned by the bank, and in many cases, the banks were tenants, and the buildings were owned by another entity. And so I think on the 2 instances that you're speaking of on Dempster, that those buildings are owned by a different entity than a bank.
And would it be appropriate to ask about drive-throughs and trees in this point?
Sure.
Okay. Could you remind me of the decision that the board made about requiring trees for a drive-through? Did you guys decide that you're gonna require for every 100 cars or something?
There was a very lengthy discussion of the board, but there was not a conclusion that supported a change to the code at that time.
Okay. I just wanna remind you that, 1 tree will only offset about 4 minutes of idling a day. So if we're gonna have drive-throughs, we should try to really hard to plant extra trees in addition to what we're already slated to in the sustainability plan, because this drive-through was not part of our greenhouse gas inventory. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask, when will the proposal to revise our drive-through standards be returning to the board?
As the staff deliberated I think it was 2 conversations at least that the board had, there was not clear-cut proposal that could be brought back to the board that would be of interest from that discussion. And so if there's interest in the board and revisiting that, we can talk about it.
Please forgive me if I'm remembering this incorrectly, but wasn't the ultimate decision of the board to table?
I don't remember precisely, was that 18 months? I'd
a
have to go
long time ago.
back, yeah, I'd have to go back, and I just remember that there wasn't, it could have been tabled, it could have been, there was an attempt of staff to listen to the conversation and for us to bring back a proposal, but we just weren't able to.
Okay. If I'm remembering it correctly, if it was a vote to table, I hope this will come back to us, since that's what my memory the board voted on, if I'm correct. I hope I'm correct.
Part of the conversation that the board had was for drive-throughs, there's value placed on them in the marketplace, and that for drive-throughs to be efficient. And I think what the Plan Commissioner Chair presented tonight is that this drive-through is designed to be only for pickup. So the order has already been placed, and so it's a very efficient use of a drive-through. And so this is not the typical drive-through. So this is somewhat reflective of the previous conversation that the board had.
I'm not questioning the specific development. I just, since it was kind of a discussion, it was a policy consideration that we kind of left on the table, so to speak. I hope that we pick it up at some point.
Call the roll, please.
Trustee Sudker? Aye. Trustee Robinson?
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn?
Aye.
Trustee Johnson?
Aye.
Trustee Purslovan?
Aye.
Trustee Klein? Mayor Van Dusen?
Aye, the motion passes. Next item is Plan Commission Case 2024-27P, Special Use Permit for Kava Restaurant, 5442 Tui Avenue. A motion is in order. Trustee Kuhn, seconded by Trustee Sutker. Are there any comments or questions? Being none, call the roll, please.
Trustee Sudker? Aye. Trustee Robinson?
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn?
Aye.
Trustee Johnson? Trustee Purslovan?
Aye.
Trustee Klein?
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen?
Aye, the motion passes. The concluding case is Plan Commission Case 2024-29P, Special Use Permit for Chase Bank, 5450 Tui Avenue. Motion is in order. Trustee Klein, seconded by Trustee Sutker. Are there any comments or questions? Being none, call the roll, please.
Trustee Sudker? Aye. Trustee Robinson?
Aye.
Trustee Kuhn?
Aye.
Trustee Johnson?
Aye.
Trustee Purslovan?
Aye.
Trustee Klein?
Aye.
Mayor Van Dusen?
Aye, the motion passes.
That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, can I just add, what a pleasure it was to deal with your village staff, your plan commission. It's always a wonderful pleasure, so thank you very much, and they do a terrific job.
Thank you. Congratulations. Next item,
Mayor.
oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I almost forgot. I did have one new business item I just wanted to bring up, if that's okay.
Okay.
There's been some artistry on some of the buildings downtown, graffiti. What's the deal with it? What's our response to it as a village? And was hoping that we can get context. John?
So over the weekend, likely Friday night, there were 5 incidences of graffiti. They were detected on Saturday. The police completed a report. The property damage, criminal property damage report was taken. They immediately, our normal protocol is to immediately notify the property owner of the damage and to state the expectation that it needs to be removed as quickly as possible. And then, so that process started on Saturday, and then Property Standards picks it up and ensures that the property owner knows that there was graffiti on the building and that it needs to be removed within a timely manner. The village does own a couple of buildings for economic development purposes, and so one of our buildings that is owned, not a municipal building, but a building for economic development, was tagged with the graffiti, and so it was detected Saturday morning, and by Saturday evening, it had been addressed. But the police department is currently investigating the graffiti incidents that occurred. We haven't had any in town in a while, and so it does appear that these 5 were marked by the same person, and the investigation is going well, and so they'll continue to work to resolve and find the criminal that created these.
Just a follow-up question. So if the property owners had an opportunity or the means to get rid of the graffiti, is there any village support to help them do that? And subsequently, what if it were racialized, graffiti that was racialized? Would there be a different response? Can you walk us through that, please?
Sure. So the Cook County used to have a graffiti removal program, and it seems that has, again, we haven't had incidents of late, but it seems that program is no longer in existence. And so as a private property owner who is responsible for a window that is broken or a door that is broken, the property owner is responsible for removing the graffiti. And so there are different methodologies that are used, whether it's power washing or painting or so forth, but it is the private property owner's responsibility. The police department is the initial response from the village when we know that graffiti has been detected, and so part of their investigation is to review the content and to see if there's hate crime or other issues that are related other than just the property damage.
So if it was kind of a hate crime or a hate remark, it would just stay. If it were on public property, private property, it would just stay until the property owner got rid of it, or?
We work aggressively to get it removed as quickly as possible. There's no question that we're very sensitive to the offensiveness of any graffiti, but also the more severe or greater degree. But there's no specific village program associated with that.
By example, there was some graffiti on a quasi-restaurant on Dempster within the last year and a half or so, and the owner, it was a brick wall painted over it, and would have, of course, loved financial support, but felt that the village was very responsive and helpful in at least identifying it and working it through. I think what we've seen is that most business owners want to remove it as quickly as possible, whatever means are available.
Okay. Are there any grants available from the village? I'm sorry. Any grants or monies available from the village to support these property owners?
So the village has homeowner assistance grants and loans. It's for income qualified individuals. And so the village has programs available, whether it's graffiti or other situations that maybe they're not causing themselves, but that happen to them. But the village does have grants and loans through that.
All right. Sorry for that late ad, Mayor. Thanks for the opportunity.
Sorry, Brett, can I add something just about the drive-through discussion? I went back into my notes. So just as a reminder to everyone, last fall, the board reviewed a zoning chapter amendment to mitigate the negative impacts of drive-throughs. It passed 5-2 on first reading. On the second reading, it was removed from the consent agenda. There was a vote to table it. It has never come back to the board. So I just want to remind the board that there was board approval on one reading for a zoning chapter amendment about drive-throughs, and we've yet to see it return. Thank you.
Yeah, but, excuse me, we also had a conversation where Joanna was gonna work on it as a case-by-case basis, instead of trying to pass an ordinance regarding it. So that's why I believe we didn't go through with it, because we were gonna let Joanna decide, like I said, on a case-by-case basis.
Well, let us go back and take a look. Is there anybody who wishes to address the board? Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor Van Dusen and trustees. I just have a couple of issues.
If we could have your name first, please. Your name?
What?
Your name.
Burton.
Okay. Thank you.
Burton, 4800 block
I thought we don't need your address,
of
did you know?
Howard.
Thank you.
First issue, just wondering, is there any update on the abandoned hotel on Oakton Street? With Halloween coming up, I would think the village might invest in something, I'm just being facetious. It just reminds me of an eyesore that's been there for so long, and nobody seems to have any answers as to what's going to be of that building. That's number one.
John, do you wanna-
Sure. The intent is for it to be a hotel. It's a hotel property that has 140 rooms in it, the commercial space on the first floor, banquet space on the second floor, a number of floors of hotel rooms, and then a rooftop bar and restaurant. It is intended for that to be the use. It went through mediation that was not successful. The court has now placed it in arbitration. And so it continues to go through the process of resolving the issue that the developer went over budget during construction and was not able to finance all of the additional expenses. It will be a hotel, it's just a matter of time.
To clarify, that litigation is between the hotel developer and the finance company and the subcontractors. The village is not part of that litigation.
So we'll just have to wait. Second issue, as I said, I'm on the 4800 block of Howard, a single-family home across from a condominium. I would hope that you would all know where that area is. It's just west of Lincoln on Howard. Very busy area. And it occurs to me, I almost had an accident there this morning. Why? Because I had the green light. I was going on a left turn onto Lincoln from Howard. I had the green light and the green arrow, but God was looking after me because I didn't proceed as some moron came off Lincoln Avenue, speeding, probably late for work, because he or she didn't get up in time to go to work. So I stopped. If I had proceeded when I first got the green light, I would have hit this person, or that person would have hit me. This is an ongoing issue. I've addressed the trustees about this before. Traffic is bad at that intersection. Something needs to be done. Maybe cameras need to be installed. It's a serious issue before somebody gets killed or seriously hurt and lawsuits fly, and the attorneys will be happy about that. But I'm a resident, and I've talked to people in the condo across the street, and they're up in arms about it. There's a 30-mile-per-hour speed limit posted on Howard. Nobody pays attention to it. I have to admit, I don't either, because if I did, I'd be run over. I'd like some comments.
Thank you for your feedback. We appreciate it. I think since the last time you were here, I believe the engineering department spoke with you or followed up, but when the intersection was touched by the state, they put in some new technology that improved the intersection movement of vehicles with some sensors and other technology, the latest and greatest of technology. And so for the longest time, there were movement issues at that intersection with Lincoln and Howard and Skokie Boulevard. And so there have been significant engineering improvements from a traffic perspective. I'm not saying that that addresses all of the concerns that you have surfaced tonight, but I wanted you to know that there have been steps taken since you last addressed the board to improve that situation. And we'll address the ones that you have addressed us tonight with as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alan Kotler, Skokie resident. So I just want to spend my 3 minutes kind of on a personal point. I found the kind of the philosophical disagreement very interesting earlier. You guys already voted on it, but I just kind of wanted to comment and maybe address Trustee Johnson's kind of philosophical disagreement, maybe help you feel better about the the thing that you guys just raised. I think it really goes to a philosophical difference. So first of all, I want to say, Trustee Johnson, I really sympathize with you for having an independent streak. I've always been very independent-minded. But I just wish you would see your fellow elected officials as good people and not kind of imply that they have ulterior motives. I resent that because I know these people.
Just respectfully, just as a point of order, comments aren't supposed to be directed at individual trustees. They're really supposed to be directed at the mayor and the board.
I'm the chair.
I'm just going to make a point of order.
Let him speak.
Sorry.
Well, I'm going towards, so first of all, I want to say, what kind of person do we want to work on behalf of the village? We live in a country where people's salaries are supposed to be correlated with the quality of their service to the people. A higher salary if they provide a better quality service. If we have a good clerk with a low salary, they will be incentivized to find a job elsewhere because others will want to hire them for a higher pay. We want the best people who are highly respected in their field. We want to attract talent. What kind of clerk would want to work a full-time job for less than a full-time pay? And I think, in my opinion, only a highly ideological one would want to do that. And as a child of immigrants from the former Soviet Union, my family left a country which was built by a group of people driven by ideologies, which, as great as they sounded in people's minds, led to some of the worst atrocities in human history. As they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So I find this is a very dangerous road. And I know this kind of debate will come up again because this is a recurring issue. So I just wanted us to kind of think about that. As a Skokie resident, I want to live in a Skokie where each village official is there simply to do their job well and keep Skokie a great, quiet place to live and raise a family. Strongly ideological people often get carried away by their own visions and lose sight of the people that they are supposed to serve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I wasn't planning to speak tonight, but I want to build off of the previous, not the person who just spoke, but the person before me's comments. He's speaking to something that I've noticed just as a broad category of people feeling like the rules don't apply to them. I don't know how many of you guys have noticed that. I've been almost clipped so many times by people turning left onto the road that I'm on in a left turn pocket, right? Like, people just don't care anymore. If you go to the Starbucks on Karlov, there are constantly cars parked in those handicapped spots that are intended for people who are actually disabled. And these cars do not have license plate tags with the handicap symbol, and they don't have the hangers. But they do it anyway. And when you say something to them, they're like, mind your own business, or you have a nice day. And but then you see people who are elderly. We have a lot of elderly people in Skokie shuffling up from a farther parking spot because some jerks took the convenient spot. So this is something that seems like it was happening a little bit before the pandemic, and then just being so isolated, I feel like people lost that sense of community. So I wonder if there's something that we can do to try to build that back and have people not be jerks all the time. I had this conversation with my husband this morning as we were watching this happen, and he said, well, enforcement is the last step to try to do this, right? But if people knew that they're going to get a ticket for parking in a handicapped spot or blocking the visibility of the stop sign because they're so close and somebody's going to get hit, then that might go a little, I'm more of a enforcement side, and he's more of a let's just build it up from the bottom side. But I'm bringing this up to you because this has been something I've wanted to say for a while, and I don't know, maybe we can all put our heads together and think of some way to make us feel like a community that cares about each other and does the right thing. Thank you.
If there was one thing that I could wave a magic wand and solve, it would be that. I wish there was a magic wand or some ordinance, an anti-jerk ordinance that we could pass. Speeding is a problem, period. And we try our best to enforce the existing laws. But as a private citizen, I tend to agree with you that I think there's been a radical change in driving habits since COVID. I can't explain why, I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. But It is something we should give thought to. So, thank you.
If there are no further comments, I will give a comment from the public podium. Thank you.
Before he starts, can I bring something up that our last regular scheduled meeting was October 7th, and besides the obvious, there was also something else on October 7th. October 7th was World Day of Bullying Prevention. And this is something that is being taught in the schools, it's being taught hopefully at home, and I feel like I am living it. So you go for your 22nd time, sir, because I love when things make sense, and none of this makes sense to me. So steal 3 more minutes of my life.
All right, thank you. Mayor and trustees, for the 22nd meeting in a row, I'm speaking in protest of the board's really overt political hiring and corruption involving attorneys in Skokie's legal department. And I'm asking that the board finally take action to reform this really integral department in our village government. Recently, I spoke about one of the many ways in which elected village officials intentionally misappropriate attorneys. I spoke about how attorneys are used to downplay and cover up the board's open meetings violations. Since then, I got to observe this misappropriation in real time. On October 2nd, I zoomed in and I watched the village's paid legal defense in a short hearing concerning one of the OMA-related lawsuits against the village board. This lawsuit concerns a really major OMA violation from January 2023, when the board privately discussed its really highly problematic appointment process for village attorneys, and also discussed the board's refusal to update this process. The Illinois Attorney General's office rightfully determined that this private discussion violated the Open Meetings Act. They asked that the board release most of the audio recording of this discussion. Just as a reminder, instead of fully complying with the Attorney General's office, all of you voted to only partially comply. You refused to release some of the audio, and as a result, the village board was sued. This was a long time ago, so I just want to remind you that it has now been over a year, and the village is still using public money to pay an outside attorney $350 an hour to defend this mistake. And also as a reminder, the board can correct this at any time. But my impression is that the board is still refusing to comply with the Attorney General's office simply because you don't want to release audio of a really frank discussion about the work of our legal department. I want to publicly advocate that you immediately stop using public funds to cover up open meetings violations, and please stop using public funds to cover up the problems in our legal department, which are very, very fixable and resolvable. Instead, I want to ask you to work to actually reform this department. Thank you.
Thank you. Just, did you have a comment? Okay.
I realize that it's an ongoing investigation, and I will leave it at that.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
in the courts.
Yeah.
And there will be at some point, there will be a court determination. But I think this is part of the problem. We have courts to adjudicate disagreements, and Trustee Johnson doesn't believe in disagreements. It's got to be his way or not done any way at all. This is a matter that is before the courts. When the court makes its determination, we will proceed as we always do. But I might also point out that Trustee Johnson likes to tell us that our Corporation Counsel's office is political in nature. That is not true. Just as the state of Illinois has laws on appointment, we follow the appointments as required by the state of Illinois. And Trustee Johnson also has a tendency to deride people personally. I took particular offense a couple meetings ago when he decided to go after Harry Piper. Some of you may have known Harry. There was not a nicer person. There was not a person who was more considerate of other people, and also a person who was motivated to public service. He was a wonderful human being. All you have to do is ask anybody at St. Lambert's and they will tell you that. If you take a look at the newspaper article that Mr. Johnson showed you, like in most cases, with all due respect to newspaper reporters, it said that newspaper reports are the first installment on history, and that's correct. And that's because newspaper reports generally do not tell the whole story. In the case of Harry Piper, the story did not tell the whole story. Harry was a member of the village board and a practicing attorney. And he studied and he gained a insurmountable knowledge of village ordinances. And an opening came in the Corporation Counsel's office for a part-time job for a prosecutor. And it was logical that Harry would be the person to take the job because of his personality. And in those days, village offenses, code offenses, we sometimes refer to them as the poop ordinances. At that time, were before the Circuit Court of Cook County. We've changed that since then, and it's now done under administrative judge rulings. But that time, it was in Circuit Court. And when a resident would go before a judge of the Circuit Court, it was a very intimidating experience. But Harry was the kind of prosecutor who could ease a resident, get enforcement, satisfy the Circuit Court judge, satisfy the village, and make the resident feel good about himself. And to demean somebody like that, who took his job seriously, to me, is just, it should not be done in public. That is not the way we should conduct ourselves. We have a national candidate who makes a practice of doing that, and we all should take and guard ourselves not to do that. And I deeply regret that Harry Piper was held up to some kind of ridicule as though he were some kind of hack. We lost Harry in the Corporation Counsel's office because he needed to return to law practice full-time because of some of the family obligations that you were talking about before. And we at cooperation with the Circuit Court, I believe we were the first municipality, correct me if I'm wrong, to go to administrative review. And one of the reasons for doing that was so residents wouldn't feel intimidated. And part of that was Harry Piper's example that he gave us. And I just wanted to correct the record on Harry's service. He passed away just shortly before COVID, and he deserves better. Is there anybody else that wishes to address the board?
Yeah, I'd like to finish my time. I'd like to use the time I have left.
You've got 30 seconds.
Wonderful. Just as a reminder, I have never said anything derisive about Attorney Harry Piper in this room.
You did.
And I do just want to say, I am not operating with a my way or the highway approach. I want to remind this board, I've asked you many, many times for any of you to come forward with any proposals to reform the really obvious problems in our legal department. I have proposed solutions. I have not heard any of you propose solutions, but if you do, I will really listen and I will support them. Thank you.
Trustee Sucker.
I move we